Every great human creation, every movement that really shifts things, it has a day one. That moment when the idea, the blueprint, suddenly becomes real, the engine starts.
Yeah, exactly. And for Bitcoin, that day wasn't just when the white paper dropped in 2008 explaining the theory. No, the real moment, the tangible start, was January 3rd, 2009. That's when we went from, cryptographic theory solving that really tough Byzantine generals problem.
Which we talked about last time. Yeah, how do you get separate actors to agree if some might be bad actors?
Yeah.
The core problem for digital cash.
Precisely. We went from that theory to something, well, real. A living, breathing digital entity.
So the white paper was the abstract answer.
And the Genesis block, that's the practical proof, the how and the when. It's the absolute foundational moment of the Bitcoin network.
So today we're really digging into that origin story.
We are. We want to answer three main things for you. What did that very beginning actually look like? Was there some kind of a message hidden inside this new digital thing?
A hidden message. Okay.
And importantly, who was the first person to actually, interact with this brand new solitary network?
Right. So by the end of this deep dive, you should get a clear picture of that crucial starting point. Maybe understand this hidden philosophical statement and see how it went from just an idea on one computer to being ready for others. Establishing that root of trust.
Exactly. Let's jump in.
Okay. January 3rd, 2009. Let's set the scene. This is the moment Satoshi Nakamoto, still a mystery figure, right?
Still a mystery.
Mine's Block Zero.
Block Zero, universally known as the Genesis block. And it's way more than just the first block. It's like the single ancestor for everything that follows.
Every single transaction.
Every transaction, every subsequent block in the entire history of Bitcoin, it's the bedrock. It's immutable. You can't change it. Without Block Zero, there's no Block One, no chain at all.
It's kind of mind-boggling when you think about the scale now. What? Hundreds of gigabytes of data?
Yeah, millions and millions of transactions. We're talking, around 800,000 blocks high as of mid-2023?
And it all stacks perfectly on top of this one single starting block.
All mathematically linked, chronologically. And that height, 0, that's key. It's a unique identifier.
And you mentioned its creation was a bit different.
Right. All other blocks, they have to point back. They reference the hash, the digital fingerprint of the block immediately before them.
Treating the chain.
Exactly. But Block Zero, well, it had no block before it. It's the ultimate starting point. It stands alone. And for anyone interested in the technical side, the proof of the work done to create it is locked in its hash forever. It starts with this incredibly long string of zeros.
Which signifies the computational effort Satoshi put in.
Precisely. That specific hash is 000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000000 It's the seal of authenticity on Bitcoin's birth certificate, you could say.
Wow. And that effort, that initial burst, it didn't need a whole global network like we see today.
No, not at all. That's the fascinating bit, the solo network phase. You have to picture it. The moment this block was mined, it was just one person, Satoshi, running this completely new software on, probably just a regular computer.
Creating a ledger from nothing.
Literally out of thin air. And for the first few days, actually, the first 6 days, Block Zero was the entire Bitcoin network.
Just sitting there.
Yep. There was no one else to reach consensus with, no other nodes running the software to talk to.
So a ledger with basically one entry on one computer waiting. That's stark.
It's the ultimate clean slate. And that solitary beginning is directly tied to the integrity we rely on today. The Genesis block is the absolute root of trust.
How so? Explain that connection.
Well, think about what a full Bitcoin node does if you choose to run one. You download the entire history, every transaction.
Right, back to the beginning.
Exactly. And to truly trust, cryptographically trust, a transaction that happened yesterday, your node has to follow that chain of proof, block by block, signature by signature, all the way back.
All the way back to Block Zero.
All the way back. Every single new Bitcoin transaction that eventually gets confirmed has to trace its lineage back to those initial 50 Bitcoins created in the Genesis block. It's a continuous chain of validation.
So the validation process relies on that anchor.
Absolutely. A transaction only gets confirmed after being validated by the network of full nodes, right? And that validation fundamentally traces back to Block Zero. If Block Zero were somehow compromised, which it can't be, given the proof of work, the whole thing would unravel. But because it's sealed and hard-coded, it's that mathematically unbreakable foundation.
Okay, so we have the technical birth moment, Block Zero.
Mm-hmm.
But you hinted at something more. The why. Why, specifically January 3rd, 2009?
Yes, the timing. This is arguably just as important as the tech itself. It positions Bitcoin not just as, a cool invention, but potentially as a direct political and social statement.
A statement born out of crisis.
Absolutely. You have to put yourself back in late 2008, early 2009. The global financial crisis was in full swing.
Lehman Brothers had collapsed just months before. Banks were failing everywhere.
Credit markets frozen. Governments were pumping, trillions into bailouts. Trust in the entire traditional financial system was, well, it was shattered.
And Bitcoin emerges right then.
Right in the middle of it. And the crisis really exposed the fundamental structure, or maybe the weakness, of traditional finance. It's built on this client-server model, right?
You mean I'm the client, the bank is the server?
Exactly. And you, the client, are completely dependent on that server, the bank. They hold the ledger, the source material puts it starkly. You have no control over it at all.
Every transaction, even checking my balance, goes through them.
It's all mediated by that central third party. And that centralization creates huge risks. Your money is just an entry in a database you don't control.
And history shows that can be a problem.
We've seen it time and again, haven't we? Cyprus, Greece, Venezuela, Argentina, the list goes on. Situations where people find out the hard way that, as one source puts it, the bank does not want to give you the money because they don't have to.
Bank holidays, capital controls.
Confiscation, devaluation. The central authority, whether it's the bank or the state, can simply decide your access is limited or your money isn't worth what you thought.
Okay, so that's the backdrop. How does this connect directly back to the Genesis block itself? You mentioned a message.
Yes. This is the really compelling part. The manifesto hidden in plain sight. Satoshi didn't just create the block. They embedded a specific piece of text right into the block's data, the Coinbase transaction, actually.
What did it say?
It reads, "The Times 03 Jan 2009 Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks."
Wait, that's a real headline.
A direct quote from the front page headline of the Times newspaper in London, published on that exact day, January 3rd, 2009.
Wow. Okay, so that's not subtle.
Not subtle at all. Satoshi wasn't just launching digital cash. They were explicitly time-stamping its birth with a comment on the failure of the existing system. This points directly to the underlying motivation for decentralization.
It's like a declaration of independence from that system.
It really feels that way. One source we looked at described it quite dramatically, saying, "The dream of nation-states to create a totalitarian financial system died on January 3rd, 2009 with the invention of Bitcoin."
Strong words.
Very strong, but it highlights the intention. Bitcoin was designed as a non-centralized alternative, a peer-to-peer system meant to fix that fatal flaw of needing a mediator who holds all the power.
So how does the PDP design actually fix that trust issue beyond just, spreading the ledger around?
It fundamentally shifts security away from trusting an institution to relying on independent verification, because there's no central server.
No single point of failure.
Exactly. No single entity to corrupt, pressure, or hack. The security comes from everyone potentially running the software, specifically a full node, and checking the math themselves. The ledger is taken from the powerful few and given to the many who collectively enforce the rules through consensus.
Okay, that's a huge shift. And then there's this idea about the nature of money itself changing. You called it money as a liberated content type. What does that mean?
Well, this is maybe the most radical technical idea under the hood. Bitcoin essentially turns money into a type of content, like email or a web page. It's just data.
How small is this data?
An older basic Bitcoin transaction is tiny, maybe around 250 bytes, just a small digital message.
And crucially, what's not in that message?
Right. It's a signed authorization proving ownership and intent. But it contains no sensitive personal data like your name, address, or your entire account number, the way sending credit card info does. The value transfer is separated from identifying information and, importantly, from the channel it travels over.
Separated from the transport medium.
Meaning you could send this highly secure transaction message over a completely insecure channel.
Like public Wi-Fi.
Public Wi-Fi, radio waves, satellite. Heck, the sources often joke about sending it via smoke signals or carrier pigeon. It doesn't matter how insecure the pipe is.
Because the security is in the message itself, the cryptography.
Exactly. It's in the digital signature, the math, not the transport layer.
Okay, and the implication of that separation is economic.
Huge economic implications. Think about the cost of traditional finance secure networks, clearinghouses, international settlement systems. It's massively expensive infrastructure.
Right.
By making the transaction itself the secure element, independent of the transport, Bitcoin drives the marginal cost of sending value across distance towards zero. You don't need that massive banking apparatus just to confirm Alice can pay Bob.
So it opens up possibilities.
Absolutely. Micropayments, faster cross-border settlements, payments in places with unstable infrastructure, things that were just too expensive or complex before. It kind of democratizes secure value transfer.
Right, so we have block zero, the anchor. We have the why, this response to centralized failure, this hidden message. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty. How does this network actually work? How does this distributed system stay consistent?
Okay, yeah, the mechanics. The big conceptual hurdle Satoshi cleared was getting this network of completely separate computers, potentially anonymous computers, to all agree on the state of the ledger, who has what money, without any central boss calling the shots.
And that's where proof of work comes in.
That's the engine. The proof of work algorithm is the mechanism for achieving that decentralized consensus.
You described it as sort of an electronic election, happening roughly every 10 minutes.
That's a good analogy. Yeah, on average, every 10 minutes. Anyone can choose to participate as a miner. They perform this really intensive computational puzzle.
Burning electricity, doing calculations.
Right. And that work references recent transactions waiting to be confirmed. By doing this, they help secure those transactions, and crucially, they decentralize the functions a central bank normally handles, issuing new currency and clearing payments.
But hang on, if the network grows, more computers join, more mining power comes online, wouldn't they start finding blocks faster than every 10 minutes?
Excellent question. That would destabilize things, wouldn't it? That's where another stroke of genius comes in. The difficulty adjustment.
Okay, what's that?
It's like a self-regulating mechanism built right into the code. The difficulty of that computational puzzle the miners are trying to solve, it automatically adjusts every 2016 blocks.
Which is about?
Roughly every 2 weeks. It looks back at how fast the last 2016 blocks were found. If they were found too quickly, say every 8 minutes on average.
Because more miners join.
Exactly, more hash power. Then the difficulty automatically increases, making the puzzle harder to solve. If blocks were found too slowly, say every 12 minutes, the difficulty decreases.
So it aims to keep that 10-minute average block time constant, no matter how much power is on the network.
Precisely. It's like a thermostat ensuring the network's heartbeat stays regular. Whether it's one laptop or a million specialized machines, the rhythm stays consistent. That predictability is vital for a financial system.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the network itself, the network topology. You mentioned full nodes being important. What distinguishes a full node?
So the network is just made up of all these computers, these nodes, running the Bitcoin software, talking to each other peer-to-peer. But a full node is doing the heavy lifting.
How so?
A full node downloads and keeps complete copy of the entire blockchain, every single transaction, right back to block zero. And crucially, it independently verifies every single rule, every signature for itself.
So running a full node means you're not trusting anyone else's word for what the blockchain says.
Exactly that. You are your own source of truth. If you use, say, just a lightweight wallet on your phone or check your balance on an exchange website, you're essentially trusting their node to tell you the correct information.
Which introduces a layer of trust again.
It does. Running your own full node is the ultimate expression of don't trust, verify. It contributes to the network's robustness, its censorship resistance. It embodies that core PDP design principle.
Got it. So let's follow a transaction. I decide to send some Bitcoin. I use my private key to sign the transaction message. What happens next?
Okay, the moment you hit send, your wallet software broadcasts that signed transaction message to the nodes it's currently connected to its peers on the network.
And that kicks off the transaction validation process.
Yes. Each node that receives your transaction immediately runs a series of checks independently.
Like what? First thing.
First, it checks the digital signature using your public key to make sure you actually authorized it, proving ownership. Then it checks, do you actually have the funds you're trying to send?
How does it check that? It's not like a bank balance.
Right. It uses the UTXO model unspent transaction outputs. Your Bitcoin isn't a balance in an account. It exists as specific outputs from previous transactions you received. The node checks are the specific UTXOs you're trying to spend actually unspent? Hasn't someone already used them? And does the total value of those inputs cover the amount you want to send, plus any transaction fee?
So it verifies the funds exist and haven't been double spent.
Exactly. It also checks things like lock times, script validity, a whole checklist based on the consensus rules.
And if my transaction passes all these checks?
If it's valid according to that node's rulebook, the node does two things. It forwards the transaction to its neighbors, helping it spread across the network.
Propagating it.
Yep. And it adds the transaction to its own temporary waiting list. This list is called a memory pool, or mempool.
The mempool. So that's where all the valid waiting transactions hang out.
Exactly. It's like a global waiting room for confirmed transactions across the network. Each node maintains its own version of the mempool based on the transactions it has seen and validated.
And that's the pool miners pick from when they build the next block.
Precisely. Miners look into their mempool, select transactions, usually prioritizing those with higher fees, bundle them into a candidate block, and then start doing the proof of work puzzle to try and get that block added to the chain. And the whole cycle repeats.
Okay, let's zoom back out to those very early days, early 2009. We know block 0 was mined. The network concept was there. How were these new digital tokens, these bitcoins, actually being created and distributed after that first block?
Right, the currency issuance mechanism. This was absolutely critical for bootstrapping the network. You needed to incentivize people to actually run the software and contribute their computer power to secure things.
The mining reward.
Exactly. Back in 2009, the reward was twofold. Miners got brand new bitcoins created out of thin air, that's the block subsidy, and they also got to keep any transaction fees attached to the transactions they included in their block.
Though fees were probably tiny or non-existent back then.
Pretty much negligible, yeah. The main incentive was that block subsidy. And the initial amount. It was huge by today's standards.
What was it?
50 BTC per block.
Wow. So the Genesis block created the first 50 Bitcoin, and then every block after that, for a while, also created 50 new Bitcoins.
That's right. And this ties directly into that fixed supply rule that's so fundamental to Bitcoin.
Remind us of that rule again. It's so different from regular money.
The protocol code dictates that this block subsidy gets cut in half periodically. It's called the halving. It happens roughly every 4 years, or technically every 210,000 blocks.
So it went from 50 BTC to 25 BTC.
Then to 12.5, then 6.25, which is the current reward, and it keeps halving. This diminishing issuance rate means there's a hard cap on the total number of Bitcoins that will ever exist.
Just under 21 million.
Just under 21 million. It's programmed in. This makes Bitcoin inherently deflationary, or at least disinflationary, over the long run. New supply keeps getting smaller relative to the existing stock. A stark contrast to fiat currencies, where governments can and do print more whenever they choose.
So it's predictability by code, not by committee. Users know the rules.
That certainty is key. And that initial distribution, those early 50 BTC blocks, were being found by pioneers. Let's talk about mining in the early days.
Because it wasn't giant warehouses full of specialized chips back then, right?
Oh, absolutely not. We're talking orders of magnitude different. Remember that difficulty adjustment?
Yeah, keeping the 10-minute block time.
In the very beginning, the difficulty was incredibly low. The first miners were literally just running the open source Bitcoin software on their regular computers.
Like my home desktop or laptop could have done it.
Easily. Your CPU, the main processor in your computer, was powerful enough. The sources mention people mining on laptops, basic desktops. If you left your computer running the software, you might actually find a block and get those 50 BTC.
Within days. Hours, maybe.
Potentially, yeah. It depended on luck and how many others were trying, but it was feasible for an individual with standard hardware.
That's incredible. The barrier to entry to effectively minting this new currency was basically zero.
Pretty much. Just needed a computer, an internet connection, and the curiosity to download and run the software. This allowed for a really organic, decentralized initial distribution of the coins among early tech enthusiasts and cryptographers.
But here's the thing. Those 50 BTC, they weren't worth anything in dollar terms back then, were they?
Not a cent, and that's crucial. The initial sentiment, outside of a tiny circle, was largely dismissive.
So you found these digital tokens, but they were just points in a game, essentially.
Exactly. They were considered worthless digital collectibles by most people who even heard about it. One source notes how the inventor proposed the solution to decentralize money, and everybody laughed, ignored him, and dismissed him.
Why was that low perceived value actually important?
It might have been essential for survival. Think about it. If Bitcoin had launched and immediately been worth, say, $1 per coin, or even a few cents,
Big players, or even governments, might have tried to take control.
they might have had a strong incentive to amass huge amounts of computing power very quickly to try and attack the nascent network, maybe perform a 51% attack to rewrite the history, or double spend coins before the network's own accumulated FOD. Proof of work became too strong to realistically overpower. That initial period of perceived worthlessness gave it time to grow strong organically.
Okay, so we have the network technically running, block 0 is there, Satoshi is mining these 50 BTC blocks, but it's still a one-person show, really.
Right. A network needs at least two participants to be, well, a network.
So when did that happen? When did someone else actually receive a Bitcoin?
That critical moment, the next key date, is January 12th, 2009. Just 9 days after the Genesis block.
9 days later, okay.
We have the theory, the architecture, the mining, but now we get the first real interaction, the proof that the peer-to-peer electronic cash system actually worked between two different people.
This is the human element coming in. Who was the recipient? Who was the first person besides Satoshi to get Bitcoin?
That would be the legendary Hal Finney.
Hal Finney.
Right?
Name sounds familiar. A cryptographer.
A highly respected cryptographer and computer scientist. He was very well known for his work on PGP, pretty good privacy encryption software. Finney was one of the very first people to grasp the significance of what Satoshi had created. He saw the potential early on, even before the white paper got much attention.
So he was interacting with Satoshi, discussing the idea.
Yes, on the cryptography mailing list where Satoshi first announced Bitcoin, Finney was curious, engaged, and supportive from the start. He was essentially the network's first volunteer recruit.
And on January 12th.
On January 12, 2009, Satoshi Nakamoto sent Hal Finney the first ever non-mining Bitcoin transaction.
The very first P2P transfer. How much was it?
10 BTC.
10 Bitcoin.
10 Bitcoin, wow.
This was the moment. The network was no longer just Satoshi's solo project. It was now officially peer-to-peer. Two individuals had successfully exchanged value using this new system.
That transaction, it wasn't just bits moving, it was the proof of the entire concept, wasn't it? Two people, trustlessly, over the internet.
Absolutely. It validated the core premise. And Hal Finney, understanding the historical weight of the moment, he commemorated it.
Wow.
With perhaps the most iconic, understated tweet in crypto history. Just a few hours after receiving the transaction, he tweeted simply, "Running Bitcoin."
Running Bitcoin, that's it.
That's it, just 2 words. But they perfectly capture that pioneering spirit. It wasn't running on massive data centers. It was running on Hal Finney's computer, on Satoshi's computer, maybe a few others starting to experiment. It proved the idea worked in practice.
The engine had truly started, and now someone else was driving too. Exactly. It was no longer just a theoretical paper or one person's code. It was live. And that 10 BTC transaction, it's still there, permanently recorded on the blockchain for anyone to see. Block 170, I believe. It's the verifiable proof that the system worked as designed right from the beginning. #tag conclusion.
What a journey. We've gone from the abstract theory of solving the Byzantine general's problem.
All the way to the concrete reality of the first block being mined and the first actual transaction between two pioneers.
And it's a story, as you said, deeply connected to its time, that backdrop of the 2008 financial crisis.
Definitely. So, quick recap of the milestones. We had the white paper laying out the theory, then the anchor point. January 3rd, 2009, the mining of the Genesis block, block 0.
Containing that explicit time-stamped message about the bank bailouts, a rejection of the old system.
Right. Then, just 9 days later, January 12th, 2009, the network proves its peer-to-peer capability with that first transaction from Satoshi to Hal Finney.
So, if the white paper was the blueprint for the machine,
the Genesis block was Satoshi turning the key for the first time. The engine sputtered to life, the consensus mechanism initiated.
And it introduced this radically different way of thinking about financial legitimacy, didn't it? No central authority decides what's a valid transaction.
Exactly. The system itself decides based on rules and incentives. It uses a market mechanism transaction fees. If you, the sender, attach a sufficient fee to your transaction because you value getting it confirmed,
then the network treats it as legitimate.
By its very nature, yes. The miners are incentivized to include it. Your willingness to pay signals its importance. It replaces top-down judgment with a kind of bottom-up, market-based validation. That's a profound philosophical shift.
So the network was live, coins were being generated, the first transfer happened. But like you said, these coins, these 50 BTC rewards, the 10 BTC Hal received, they didn't have any real-world price tag yet.
Not at all. They were still just interesting digital tokens circulating among a handful of cryptographers and enthusiasts. Points in a fascinating new game, perhaps.
Which leads us to the big question, and maybe our final thought for you today. How does something purely digital, created by code and proof of work, actually get assigned a value in the real world? What does it take for people to agree that this token is worth, well, anything?
That's the next chapter in the story. The network was running, but it hadn't yet bridged the gap to the physical economy.
So next time, we're going to tackle that exact moment. We'll explore the legendary story, you might have heard of it, involving 2 pizzas and a whole lot of Bitcoin.
Ah, yes. Possibly the most expensive meal ever ordered.
We'll dig into how Bitcoin got its very first measurable price tag in actual goods and services. Join us for that next time as we explore the birth of Bitcoin's valuation.